Will it ever drive again? So here's a story about one of my favourite cars that I have ever owned. My Mark III Volkswagen Golf MREG. So back in June 2011, over 12 years ago, I bought myself a Mark III Golf for the grand total of £180. It was completely stock, nothing special about it. This is it, I bought myself a new car. But I just really wanted a Golf because I've always loved Golfs and I saw this one, so I bought it. I got a bit bored of it. I don't really like normal cars, as seen here. Back in 2016, I was watching Casey Neistat. I discovered that in 2016, I was also travelling to New York, but I thought it would be a good idea to try to meet Casey Neistat. At the time, he owned a company called Beam, so I decided I would take my car to a middle of nowhere and paint it. I had his tattoo on his arm on the back of the car. I had his Instagram tag on top of the car and his company name all up the side of it. Now when I got to New York, I did find his office. Unfortunately, he wasn't there at the time, but I did see one of his mates there and also his shop next door that I know him quite well. I showed them pictures of the car and they were gutted for me that Casey wasn't about to see it because they said he would have loved it. Then come home, decided because the car got quite a lot of attention, I would do something for myself and for my video channel. And so I decided that I was going to do something pretty epic. And that epic thing was what I officially called the Epic European Road Trip. So I decided to take, at the time, a 24-year-old Mark III Volkswagen Golf and drive it around 14 countries in 14 days. This was a map of the route that I was going to take, and so I decided that the car needed to be more unique for myself. So I spray painted it again. Check this out. That is what you call orange. The car. So I stick a bomb the side wing, I put a new rust wing on it, so a big book on the bonnet which looked awesome, and then I took it on the Epic European Road Trip, which as I said was 14 countries in 14 days. I did 3,500 miles in 2 weeks in a 26-year-old Volkswagen Golf. And I tell you what, it did it completely and utterly faultlessly. There wasn't a single issue at all. There was one slight issue with the car on the entire trip. Okay, there were two slight issues with the car on the trip. The first one being a very small one. Every time I was driving the car, I was going which I then later discovered was just an exhaust clamp. The exhaust clamp had basically twisted itself a little bit and metal on metal was rubbing and causing this noise. The entire trip, it wasn't until I got back and went underneath the car and went, turned it, and the noise stopped. The second slight problem with the car on the European road trip was there was a hole in something quite important, which was the fuel tank. Which meant it was fine, it still drove, however, I could only fit about 20 euros of fuel in the car at a time. Now we do 3,500 miles in 2 weeks, this is quite inconvenient, but I persisted, we got it done, and the road trip was successful, and it just made me fall in love with this car even more. I mean, it is a shitbox. It's a £180 Mark III Golf. I generally love this car so much that I do actually still have it. But more on that in a moment. But once I returned back from the Epic European road trip, I decided it would be a nice idea to treat the car to some new parts. It just so happened that a friend of mine was selling parts for a Mark III Volkswagen Golf on Facebook. Good old Facebook Marketplace. So I bought them all off him, which included 4 fairly new coilovers for the car, so I can adjust the height on it. There was a new fuel tank, which I desperately needed. Gear linkage because the gear was basically like stirring soup. Put brand new brakes all the way around and a new engine mount because the engine was a bit wobbly. Then, after I'd done all that, so the car sitting nice and low, the brakes looked nice and shiny and all ready to go. The fuel tank was fitted without a hole in it, so I could put loads of fuel in it without having to worry about it running out because I can only fit 20 euros or £20 in at a time. And there's one more thing to do. this is where it gets a bit sad. Cue the sad music. No, sad music. That's better. I had to fit an exhaust manifold gasket. Now this should be an easy job. You should take the exhaust off, take the gasket out, put the new gasket in, and put the exhaust manifold back on. However, there was one bolt that I could not get to, and in my ultimate wisdom, I decided it would be a good idea to basically take the top of the engine apart so I could try to get access to a bolt. Guess what? I didn't get access to a bolt. I took the engine apart, I put it under the bonnet, it started to rain, I closed the bonnet, and that was that. The car sat at my friend's house until October 2019, still not running. The brand new brakes now basically rusted, and it just looked very sorry for itself. I had to get the car towed away in 2019, and I towed it to my sister's house, where it sat for another year. As you can see in this little clip here, the back window on the boots are completely basically rusted through now. So back in October 2020, I decided enough was enough and I needed to get this car fixed. I couldn't fix it. However, randomly, where my sister used to live, there used to be like a walkway past it. A random guy saw it, and because it was covered in my name, my social media sites and everything like that, this random message appeared in my inbox one day saying, "Are you willing to sell the Golf?" I wasn't. However, he was also a Volkswagen specialist mechanic, and instead of buying the car, he agreed that he would help me get it back on the road because it seems a shame that it's just sitting there rotting away. So he came round one day, as you can see in this video here. He managed to do something that I couldn't do, which was to fix the car. He managed to get the old gasket out, which you can see is absolutely, look at the state of it, completely destroyed, and he managed to fit a nice new gasket in it. And then, amazingly, on a fine day in October, the car started. My dad came round, we cleaned the fuel tank out, cleaned the lines out, put some new fuel in it, put a jump pack on the battery, turned the key, this very key here, and amazingly the car started. It was alive. Hey! But obviously there's still a few bits to do to it. I still had to repair the front bumper, had to get 2 new tyres for it, had to get a windscreen fixed and stuff like that. My sister had to move house, so the Golf had to go. However, my friend, another friend of mine, came to a rescue. Has a garage at his house. He doesn't have a car. The garage is not being used. Do I want to store a car there? Yes. So in February 2022, me and my dad pumped up the tyres a little bit, towed the Golf up to my friend's garage, parked on the private land at the beginning of the garage forecourt, and I drove the Volkswagen Golf for the first time in many years from the end of the forecourt about this far into the garage. That was in February 2022. It has sat there ever since. Really want to get it back on the road. Let's go and see what state the Golf is in today, August 2023. Just through here, you can just see it, there it is. Oh, I did fix the broken inside still. A little bit of wear and tear, but yeah, so if we have a quick tour around, you can see that this tyre definitely needs a bit of air in it. This could do a bit of a clean. Windscreen has got a few cracks in it. Yeah, the other tyres don't look too bad. Yeah, I think we'll be fine. So I've just found out this has a little bit of power in it. So, over a year, we'll let start. I mean, it's turning over, which can only be a good, maybe a new fuel in it or something, but I think that's pretty good progress. Let's get this car back on the road. So if you want to see the adventure of this car, and if it's ever going back on the road, please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I shall see you on the next one. Till next time, we'd say.